Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Amit, for this very generous introduction. I can see my very dear friend KK here. KK, thank you for being here. Yeah, it's going to be an ask to speak in front of you. So, very delighted to be here this afternoon on this validity session of 9th Indian Management Conclave 2018. This is my first time here, but I'm very excited to be part of this very important session and this deliberations. The topic which has been given to me is leadership in the age of disruptions. You all know, I think there's nothing new that we're all living in a VUCA world which is marked by a very high degree of volatility, uncertainty. Things are changing all the time. Ambiguities are there, prevalent in every sector which you touch. And this is all led by technological disruptions. I think that is one of the major, I would say, reason for things which are changing at a breakneck speed. Let me go to the topic first. Traditionally, how we have seen leadership. What do we understand by the term leadership? I think more importantly, we find that we've seen leaders who are very subdued, very analytical in their approach. And there are some leaders very charismatic who go by their gut. But I think one thing, so they're very different leadership styles, so to say. But I think one thing which is very common, one crucial thing which is common between all effective leaders is their emotional intelligence, what we call as emotional intelligence. I think that is getting loud and clear now in today's world. People who can really understand the mental makeup of themselves and of their stakeholders around them in terms of how to be able to motivate them, how to understand their needs and what is going around in their mind, how to interact with them, how to galvanize aspirations amongst them, how to really have those social skills. I think these are some things which is very, very common between various leadership styles. So I think there are various definitions. I think definitions are not very important, but I think what is important is that leadership is, to me, a process of social influence. I think there are three aspects. Process of social influence, which maximizes the efforts of others. Others is very important, and towards the achievement of a goal. So there are different definitions. Leadership is a capacity to translate vision into reality. Here, the people part is missing in Warren Bennis' definition. If you look at Bill Gates, again, a very fundamentally, very good definition. As we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. Here, what is missing is towards certain goals, So I think at the end of the day, definition is not important. What is important is so if this is what is leadership, what is keeping leaders awake at night today? I think this is a very nice study which I put my hands on by KPMG. I think leaders keep awake, or leaders are up because of disruptive technologies and constantly emerging new business models. I think this is their major concern, that next day morning when they get up, they might find that their industry has got disrupted by some interesting new revenue model or some new technology disruption. And digitalization is at the back of all this. KK knows that very, very well. I think so 65% CEOs believe that the next 3 years, now this is a survey done just about 6 months back, covering 400 CEOs. They say the next 3 years will be more critical for their industry than the past 50 years. So that's the rapidness of the change which is happening. 81% of them say that new technologies keep them awake at night. 76% feel that new entrants are disrupting their business models, and 66% regret that their own organizations are not being able to disrupt business models in the industry. I think these are the three very key findings which is challenging leadership. And we have seen that some of the iconic brands which were there for at least 4 to 5 decades, very, very strong brands which got which lost their way because they didn't stay relevant to their customer and they got disrupted. We know of Kodak, we know of HMV, we know of Blockbuster, we know of so many brands which got taken on. So indeed, there are tectonic shifts taking place. What is happening? One is technology changing in a very, very big way. Rapid technology changes are happening in every business, whether it is automotive, whether it is aerospace, whether it is defense, whether it is biotechnology, genomics, anything you pick up, any sector. No sector is immune to these challenges. The other is, this is affecting organizations at multiple levels, whether it's customers, suppliers, employees, all are getting impacted. And today's customers, what are they wanting? They want a complete solution. They are looking for reduction in cycle times, and they're looking at complete solutions. They are not looking at products. They are not looking at services. I think that message is very, very clear. So what does it mean to us? None of us can supply everything or can offer a complete solution all the time by ourselves. This means the need for partnerships and collaborations. I think this is a very, very clear message for leadership. Organizations need to become more agile with two-way. This is a big challenge for large organizations. We have to behave, we have to work like a startup. We are all wanting to learn how startups operate. I think this is a big, big message from our sector, from large companies. How do we simplify our structures? How do we respond to our customers and other stakeholders in a fast way? The other challenge from technology, let's move to millennials. I think that is another challenge which organizations are facing, which is basically the millennials are challenging the organization's old ways of working. So what's happening here is there are 4 key things which we are noticing across organizations. One is the need for empowerment. These youngsters in the age group of 24, 25, they want to be involved in decision making. They want the culture to be more egalitarian. They don't want that much of hierarchy happening, and they don't want to wait for 30 years to reach the top of the ladder and then be part of the decision making. They're very, very impatient when it comes to that. The other is the work-leisure integration. There are very blurring lines. They will put the headphones in their ears and they work with music on. So I think it's a lot of change from my times versus this today, work-leisure integration. Instant gratification. They can't wait for end of the year appraisals and bonus checks. They want perpetual feedback all the time. They want constant feedback happening to them. And they get bored very fast. If you don't offer them intellectually challenging assignments, they can get bored very fast. So this is another challenge which leaders have to address. On one side is technology, other side is customer wanting a complete service. The third major challenge is your own people, your own organization, your own talent pool, which is really throwing up this challenge. And how does a leader manage multi-generation inside an organization? You have guys, in my company, we have guys with 23, 24 starting, and I have guys 50, 55, 56. So there's a huge generational gap between them. So their aspirations are different. What drives them is different. How does a leader manage all of that? So that's the next challenge a leader faces. So therefore, the new organizational agenda for leaders, handling the dichotomy, which I talked about between the new millennials and the older workforce, simplifying the organization structures, business processes, and systems for agility so as to be able to respond to customers fast, and building a new culture. I think this is something very, very important. And managing a culture which is multi-generational in nature, and yet a culture of the organization which really shows to the world what this organization stands for. And I will come back to this culture piece very, very importantly, because to me, this is really the key. And also, the fourth point, if you really want to take, is taking cognizance of emerging business models. Now, you have seen so many business models which come up. I have tried to list out some of the business models which I am very familiar with today. Is the lock-in model where you disrupt through lock-in by taking a product or service on a periodic basis, and you pay for subscription for 6 months or 3 months or 1 year, and you lock in a customer, typically Organizations like Netflix and all do that. Freemium model, which is free as well as premium, which means the basic services are given free of cost, so you get into the habit. And then there are certain premium services, there are additional add-on services for which you pay. We call it freemium model. The next is free model, which is basically to get insights. So you pay through your eyeballs, you become the product in terms of, and they get data from you, which is a very, very useful data for them, and they get insights. And this is typically Google and Facebook model. And the other one is experience model. This is a high-end, this is typical of Apple. So their story is how do they really showcase the superiority by an experience which customers go through. And of course, there's another model called ecosystem model, which is the end-to-end suite of products, which again, organizations like Apple and Google provide to give enhanced experience to their customers. So what is common here, what is a common thread running here is typically this is from asset-led to idea-led and asset-light. All these models are from age-old models were asset-heavy. Heavy assets, land, building, machinery, plant, all of that, organizations, regional offices, area offices versus idea-led and asset-light. So that's something which is happening. So that's the fourth challenge which leaders face today as to how do you deal with so many models, people, customers, business models, technology. So on every front, there is a huge challenge there. So therefore, leaders need to fasten their seat belts because we live in an era marked by Industry 4.0, which we are all going through. Very interesting, and they call two very interesting words, technological Darwinism and digital Darwinism, which is actually responsible for all what is really. So technology is the real piece which is rewriting the new rules of the game, as we can see. So if these are the challenges, what are the kind of leaders do you think are going to solve some of these challenges? So are these leaders born, or they are made, or they evolve? What do you think? Which kind of leaders will solve some of these challenges? I think very clearly true leaders evolve. And I think it's very, very clear that leaders evolve. They learn through making some mistakes. They learn through others' experiences. They have to experience certain things. But today's leaders just do not evolve. They disrupt to differentiate. I think that is the key difference which is happening. You don't have time to keep evolving. You evolve, but you also have to disrupt. So I think that is another key, which is a key takeaway, which we have seen very, very. I will now connect you to a few chapters from Indian mythology to see how the roles of creator, preserver, and destroyer, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, how does it link up with our leadership story? So if you look at the first point, reinvent and innovate. When you disrupt, you create a new normal, but that is not enough. So there are many avatars in many roles. If you look at Vishnu, he came in 10 avatars. Every time there was a new hurdle, he changed his avatar in order to meet up the upcoming challenge. So therefore, constant re-engineering is necessary to stay relevant. This is something very, very critical. So reinvent and innovate. Be resourceful and not resource heavy. We talked about this. We have to be asset light, but idea heavy. We have to have greater ideas. So if you look at a parallel in mythology, while Indra, the king of paradise, used all his resources to woo goddess Lakshmi, Lakshmi gravitated towards humble Vishnu, whose ever-changing calm personality she was more drawn to. So it's not that if you have big assets on ground, the customer will get attracted to you. The customer will get attracted to the value proposition which you offer. I think at the end of the day, I think this is something very, very interesting. The third piece is building partnerships and collaboration. This story is of Ram and Ravana. So Ram had to take on this very difficult enemy, so to say, Ravana, and he did not, at that point in time, have to wait to build his own capabilities. So he chose Hanuman. So Hanuman came as a collaborator, as a partner to help him, and I think that's how he could manage and win his enemy, on his enemy. The number 4 is startups and millennials will be the new gurus. I think this is very, very important. We have to start reverse, I would say, what you call reverse coaching or mentoring many times. So Vibhushan, the younger brother of Ravan, had advised against abduction of Sita. And Ravana did not hear to his advice, and eventually this led to a war. So I think this is very important. We got to listen to the younger generation. We got to listen to millennials who come up with new ideas. It's not that age only will define that you are the leader and you are senior, so therefore you have the right to do whatever you want and whatever decisions you take. So, what sets you apart? I want to just like to say, I think this is a very important one. What takes to become an undisruptable leader? I think this is something very, very important. I have already spoken about it, but I will go to a framework which we feel is a good recipe, and we are trying to applying this at Volvo. I will share this with you very, very quickly. The first piece is PAP. We call it PAP. So align your purpose, aspirations, and passion. I think first thing is very, very clear. Define the problem, what you are trying to solve. I think this is something very, very, very important. And what are your aspirations? And are you passionate enough towards that aspiration and that goal and to solving that problem? So identify what sets you apart. You don't have to be good at everything. Sachin Tendulkar is not good at everything. He is a great batsman, but he's not a great bowler, right? So likewise, you don't have to be good at everything. You got to choose what is your strength area, what are you passionate about, which is the area you really want to excel in, and then go 100% after it. And that communicate that strategy to the team and the people around you. I think that's the first piece. The second piece is very, very important. We call it the CSS, which is the balance, the culture, structure, steering system. Now, this is an important one which I wanted to share. There are, in any organization which you see, there are 2 steering systems. One is the culture steering system, other is the structure steering system. Structure is basically all policies, SOPs, code of conduct, other things. And culture is the basic behaviors of people, basic tone which you set inside the organization. What are the kind of behaviors which you admire? What are the kind of behaviors which will not be tolerated inside the company? You walk the talk. So culture piece is very, very slow, but it builds over a period of time. Whereas the structure piece, you can always keep changing, you can keep minor modifications with that. And that's what organizations keep doing. Something goes wrong, we say, let's fire this guy, let's fire this thing, and then let's fix this piece. And the piece doesn't get ultimately fixed because the problem is the culture piece. So I think that is something which we need to really, so there has to be a very good balance between culture and structure system in the organization, and we need to remain consistent while managing change. I think this is the second piece which we have learned. The third is EEG. I think this is very important. Empower, and this is what the leader has to do himself or herself. So empower, excite, and galvanize. I think teams towards shared, I think aspirations galvanize people in a very, very big way. And this is the real job of a leader. Many times we say these are some symbolic messages we give. I think they are worth it. These symbolic messages are worth it as well, because those aspirations is what that people really go after, and they really, and this depends on a very, very effective and open communication. The fourth piece is, we call it TTC, which is trust, transparency, and collaborations. We talked about this in the beginning. So one important thing is trust has to be a new currency in the company. We need to start trusting each other. We need to start trusting our partners. We need to start trusting each other. And we need to be very, very transparent with each other. This will solve lots of problems inside the organization if we want to be agile and fast. The fifth piece is DIS, we call it. Encourage diversity, habit of innovation, and experimentation. I think This is something which large companies missed earlier, especially when it came on the habit of experimentation. We were all scared of failures. I think this is something now which we are trying to encourage deliberately, that come and fail, there's no problem. There is no taboo to failure. As long as you have tried, as long as you have followed the right path, you have been passionate about this, you have been at it. I think this is disrupt the norm and constantly embrace holistic sustainability. Sustainability is another piece which is very, very important. And when we talk of holistic sustainability, what I mean is whatever we do has to pass a 3-piece filter, which means that whatever you do has to be economically viable, socially inclusive, and environmentally friendly. So you cannot ignore any of these 3 pieces. You can't do one at the cost of another. You have to tick all the 3 boxes. So I think this is something very important. The last but not the least is the TOC, which means theory of constraints, which we are trying to say is that try to look at the complete value chain, see which is the weakest link in your chain, and try to work on that weak link till that weak link is no more the weaker link in the chain, and therefore in relative terms something else will become weaker. Then you start working on that other weak link until this becomes a habit. So you constantly keep working on the weaker link, the weakest link in the chain, and that's how you strengthen the entire chain in a big way. And I think technology and digitalization will solve most societal and stakeholder problems. Using technology, do this in a big way. So TOC, stay relevant to your customer, enhance value creation through co-creation, and identify the weakest link in the value chain. So these are the 6 things which we feel are the good recipe for leadership in this age of disruptions. This will keep us ahead of the curve. These are easy to say, but I think it's a very good framework. We have teams and we have country management team leadership, which 6 of them are owning one of these and they're working on each one of these. So we have a large, and this is deployed down the line across the organization in a big way. So this is the thing which I wanted to share. But for me, the most apt attribute of a leader is what Tom Peters says: leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders. I think the real definition of a leader is a person who can create more leaders. And I think that's, to me, is the key. So because in today's day and age, we need many more leaders, because owners of running an organization cannot solely rest with one person. One person cannot lead a large organization or even a startup. You need so many other resources. Everybody is a leader in his own right. And in this era of constantly declining resources, the key to success lies in being sensitive to the world around us, which I said is sustainability, which is doing more with less. Finally, with this, we say, let's interrupt disruption, and let's by being the disruptor. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I'll be willing to